Welcome to Storied Audio. Kim never thought of herself as a liar. The kind of lies she told were small, soft ones. The harmless kind people used to smooth rough edges off life. At least that's what she told herself. "Where are you?" her boyfriend asked over the phone. Kim stood outside a dimly lit bar downtown. Music pulsed faintly through the brick walls behind her. She glanced at the glowing sign above the door and hesitated. "I'm at Claire's," she said. "We're watching movies." The lie slid out effortlessly. On the other end, Brian exhaled. "Hey, I just wondered." That should have been the end of it. But Kim's stomach tightened anyway. Because she wasn't at Claire's. She was with Evan. Not alone. That part mattered to her. 3 coworkers had gone out after work for drinks, and Evan happened to stay the longest. Evan from accounting, who flirted with everyone and meant nothing by it. Evan, who Brian disliked for reasons Kim considered irrational. "He wants you," Brian had said once after a company party. "He literally acts like that with everybody." "That doesn't make it better," Brian replied. Kim hated those conversations. Hated the way conflict sat in her chest like wet cement. Brian never yelled, never insulted her, never controlled her. But disappointment from him felt unbearable somehow, like watching a door slowly close. So when the group decided to grab drinks after work, she hadn't mentioned it. And when everyone left except her and Evan, she definitely hadn't mentioned that. Nothing happened. But Brian wouldn't see it that way. At least that's what Kim believed. By the time she got home, Brian was asleep on the couch. She stood there quietly, guilt pressing into her ribs. He trusted her completely. That was the worst part. The next morning, Brian kissed her forehead while making coffee. "How was Claire?" he asked casually. Kim stirred sugar into her mug without looking up. "Good. We watched some terrible horror movie." Another lie. Smaller now. Easier. Weeks passed. Then it happened again. Another work outing. Another moment where telling the truth felt heavier than avoiding it. "Who's going tonight?" Brian asked while tying his shoes near the door. "Just the girls from marketing," Kim answered automatically. But later that night, there was Evan again sitting across from her in a noisy restaurant booth. "You okay?" he asked. "Why? You keep checking your phone." Kim forced a smile. "Just tired." In reality, she was terrified. Not of cheating. Not of temptation. Of honesty. Every lie created another responsibility. She had to remember details now. Timelines. Names. Stories. It was exhausting, but admitting the truth felt worse. Months later, the truth arrived quietly. Through coincidence. Brian attended a mutual friend's birthday party without Kim, who claimed she had to work late. Around midnight, he found himself talking to a woman from Kim's office. "She and Evan are hilarious together," the woman laughed. Honestly, they practically carried those happy hour nights. Brian frowned slightly. Happy hour nights? Yeah, after work. They used to stay out all the time. Something cold opened inside him. He smiled politely through the rest of the conversation, but his mind kept replaying details. Claire's movie nights. Marketing dinners. Late meetings. When Kim came home that night, Brian was sitting at the kitchen table in silence. "You okay?" she asked carefully. He looked up. His expression wasn't angry. That almost made it worse. "How many times did you lie to me?" Her pulse stumbled. "What? Don't do that." His voice stayed calm. "Please." Kim set her purse down slowly. "I met Jenna tonight." The room suddenly felt airless. "She told me about the work outings. About Evan." Kim swallowed hard. "Nothing happened. I didn't ask if something happened." The hurt in his voice cracked something open inside her. Brian leaned back in his chair, staring at her like he didn't recognize the person standing there. "You lied to me over and over." "I was trying to avoid fights." "What fights, Kim?" "We barely fought." "You got upset whenever I mentioned him. Because you kept hiding things." "I hid things because you got upset." The words echoed harshly between them. Brian rubbed his face slowly. "Do you hear yourself?" Tears burned behind Kim's eyes. "I know how it sounds." "No, I don't think you do." She sank into the chair across from him. "Every time you got disappointed in me, I panicked. I felt like if I said the wrong thing, you'd stop loving me a little more each time." His expression softened briefly, then hardened again. "So instead you built an entire fake version of reality." I wasn't trying to hurt you. I know. He looked away. That's what makes this so messed up. Silence settled heavily. Finally Brian asked, did you ever think about telling me the truth? All the time. But you didn't. Kim shook her head. Because the longer the lies went on, the more impossible honesty became. Over the next week they barely spoke beyond practical necessities. Kim replayed everything constantly. Not the nights with Evan but the moments before each lie. The split-second decision to avoid discomfort instead of risking vulnerability. One evening Brian finally spoke. I don't think you cheated on me. Kim looked up from the couch, startled. But I don't know what's real anymore. The sentence hit harder than yelling ever could. I know, she whispered. He sat beside her, exhausted. When someone lies repeatedly, even about small things, your mind starts rewriting everything. He stared at the floor. I keep wondering what else you decided I couldn't handle. There isn't anything else. But you understand why that's hard to believe now. She nodded slowly. Brian rested his elbows on his knees. I love that you were honest. That was one of the first things I trusted about you. Kim broke then, crying silently into her hands. I'm sorry, she whispered. I was so scared of conflict that I destroyed the thing I was trying to protect. Brian didn't answer immediately. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows. Finally he said, I don't know if relationships survive this. Kim lowered her hands. But maybe, he continued quietly, the real question is whether we're willing to rebuild something honest from what's left. For the first time in months she told the truth immediately. I want to try, she said. And this time there was nothing easy about it. Subscribe to the channel for more audio stories.